and final word with Nelson Jordan. I'm Chris Nelson. Today we are going to be discussing the Associated Press releasing the preseason top 25 poll for college football. We will be doing this in a format where we will go through each of the top 25 ranked teams in the preseason poll, and Nelson and I will each state whether we feel that the team is ranked too high, too low, or just right. So we will begin with the preseason number one team in the nation in both the AP and coaches polls, the Texas Longhorns. Nelson, do you feel the Texas Longhorns are ranked too high or just right?
I think they're ranked just right. I think they're favored for a reason to get to the national title game. There are questions, obviously, about Archie Manning. Can he play a whole season as the starting quarterback? But I like their team all around, so I think they're just right.
Well, Archie hasn't played football since the 80s, so I certainly don't think he's the answer, but Arch Manning.
Arch Manning. I always get that confused, audience.
I
I
get it. It's
always
so
do.
easy too, yeah. If you're asking me whether or not I'm choosing Texas or the field, I'm going with the field. Thus, I feel that Texas is ranked too high in the number one slot, so that's my answer, too high. Number two, we have the Penn State Nittany Lions. Nelson, do you feel that they are too high, too low, or just right?
Too high. Listen, I like the fact what James Franklin has done to construct that overall roster, but at the same token, you can't beat an Ohio State University, and getting to the playoff and kind of, I hate to say it, but with the exit that they had, unacceptable, and they got to do better than that. And I don't think they're privileged to have the number two spot. No.
I agree, too high. They haven't beaten Ohio State in several years now. It's been a long time, and so you can't be ranked ahead of
Hmm.
Ohio State until you prove that you can beat Ohio State, and I don't see that happening again. And you can't lose the elite players they lost, players of that caliber, and be better. So it doesn't matter to me what they have. I get that they came close to getting to the national championship game, but I don't see them being better this season. Thus, I don't believe they will get to the national championship. And so number two is simply too high. Number three, we have the Ohio State Buckeyes. Nelson, how do you feel about them?
I think I think they're ranked a tad too low. I think they should be the second best team in the country, to be very honest with you. And I think, they're the best team in the Big Ten for a reason. And yes, we know that they have a little bit of a QB carousel at the moment, but Ryan Day, he's always had a strong program in Ohio State, and then it'll be interesting to see if they can be the first team to win back-to-back titles in quite a time, right? So yeah, I think they're ranked just a tad low.
I'm in full agreement. I mean, it's not just the fact that they are the defending national champions. That program, even prior to Ryan Day becoming head coach, has had incredible, sustained, very high level of success for a very long time. And I think they deserve to be given credit for that, and the expectations should be high. And so, yes, I feel that they are too low. And I know that we are amongst the minority in feeling that way, that people feel that they are ranked too high, but I'm glad that we're on the same page with this. We both feel that they are too low. Number four, Clemson. Nelson?
Clemson, I think they're ranked a little too high, in my opinion. Dabo Sweeney, I don't understand. Ever since the Trevor Lawrence days, and with that program, it's been inconsistent as it is. I get it. You have an up and coming quarterback, one of the favorites to let alone be the Heisman, but to be compared with the other top teams that I have right now on this list, I got them at six. I just don't see how they have cracked the top four, in my opinion. I just don't see it. I don't buy it.
Too high. Number five, we have the Georgia Bulldogs. Nelson?
I think they're ranked a tad low. I like what Kirby Smart has done with the program. I know that they do have, some inconsistencies, especially with last year. We saw that, but I think Kirby Smart's going to turn the program around.
I'm in agreement that Kirby Smart is clearly a tremendous coach, and I believe they will have a great defense as they always do under him.
Hmm.
But I have them too high. I am not buying into that offense, and thus I have them too high. They lost more games last year than they had the previous three seasons combined. I have them
Hmm.
for right now. They'll bounce back, but for right now, turning in the wrong direction. I don't see this team being borderline of getting to a semifinal game, and thus I think they're ranked too high at number five.
Fair enough.
Number six, we have the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Nelson.
I think Notre Dame is a tad high, but there's an argument to be, hey, they're just right where they're at too. Listen, we all love what Marcus Freeman has done with that program to be able to have a balanced defense and offense. But I think you're going to bring this up. We need to see a lot more out of their offense to be able to compete with the bigger dogs in the top 25.
I agree. I like Marcus Freeman a lot. They're going to have a great defense. They're going to run the ball well. I think you can do that and win games. I'm going to go just right here, but yes, we don't know what to expect out of the passing game and the quarterback play and that obviously will correlate with the receivers. And at
Hmm.
some point in time in the modern game, they're going to have to be able to have that dimension in their
Hmm.
offense to win at a high level. And
Hmm.
so we need to see that, and they need to be consistent. They can't have these inexplicable losses that they've had every season. So until we see that consistency from them, I can't have them higher. So I'm going to go with just right. But if anything, I would go too low. I certainly don't have them too high. I think 6 is just right, but I could see them being better than that, without a doubt.
Okay.
Number 7, we have the Oregon Ducks. Nelson?
I think Oregon's perfect here. This is a perfect spot for them. You know, I think they're a dark horse. They have been a dark horse the last 2 years. They've been given some opponents, and we saw what they did last year to Ohio State. So, and that was an epic shootout by all means necessary up in Oregon. So, listen, I think they're in a great spot. If they can get into the 12 bracket, honestly, I could literally see them making some noise. I love them where they are. Love it.
I agree with all of that. I think just right, but again, you talked about Ohio State in the regular season when they were at home, but when they played them in the Rose Bowl, it went absolutely horrible, and that's the issue with Oregon is yes, it's great they had the perfect regular season. Yes, it's great they won the Big 10 championship. Yes, it's great they got to the playoff despite it being expanded to 12 teams, and they were number 1. But they still weren't able to be in that Final Four, and until they are, I'm not going to buy into it. But I do think there's a ton of potential there. I really like Oregon and what they're doing, what Dan Lanning is doing, and I think they're at that point where they can finally get over the hump. But until they
Hmm.
do, I won't buy in. Thus, just like I said about Notre Dame, just right. Number
Hmm.
8, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nelson, what do you have?
I think Alabama's just right. I think DeBoer is going to turn around the program. I know last year wasn't Alabama standards by any reason, especially to everyone that was used to Nick Saban's success for so long. So I think they're going to turn around. I would hope that they're going to have better quarterback play. Listen, they're always going to have a lot of talent, especially on that defense and that offensive line. So I can imagine that they're going to be better, but they're just right where they are.
All of that seems fair, but I'm going too high here. It's not that I don't think Kalen DeBoer is a good coach. I think he is, but the reality is he had one great season at Washington. A lot of coaches have been able to put
Hmm.
together one great season, and last year was a massive drop off from what we were used to seeing under Nick Saban. And so I'm just not going to buy into them suddenly being the eighth best team in the nation until I see it happen. I just don't see them playing in a quarterfinal, so I'm going too high. Number 9, the LSU Tigers. Nelson.
I think there's an argument to be made that they're probably just right, maybe a tad low. And when you have a quarterback favorite to be potentially in the Heisman running, especially with the complete offense that they have, and there's going to be at least a lot of games on their schedule where they may not necessarily obviously win 10, 11, 12 games. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think they're perfect where they're at because they're going to compete and they're going to be in some shootouts. So I think it's just right, just based on their offense alone.
But if you can't win double digit games, I don't think you're a top 10 team. So I'm in disagreement with you here. I think that they're too high. I think Brian Kelly is a really good coach, but the reality
Hmm.
is he has underachieved there. And until I
Hmm.
see that change, I'm not buying into it. And they have another tough opener, which I do believe they will win this time around. But despite that, I'm going too high with the LSU Tigers. I'll believe when I see it. And I know the LSU fans feel that 9 is too low, and they're looking at this as they have national title aspirations, but I'm not buying into it. Number 10,
Hmm.
the Miami Hurricanes. Nelson, what do you have?
I got Miami. I think they're just right where they're at. Listen, I think there's a lot of disagreement with a lot of people saying that maybe they're not going to be as good as they were last year, considering you losing to Cam Ward and what was a pretty good offense. But I believe in Mario Cristobal. I think he's going to maintain the same success that he had last year. They are playing in the ACC now. The ACC hasn't been the best conference as of late by any means. So that should give another reason why Miami should be able to at least keep the rankings around a top, not a top 10, but at least, hovering around the 10 mark, if anything.
Too high. Miami will not finish as a top 10 team. As an ACC guy, unfortunately for me, I know that Miami is always overhyped and they never live up to it. They lost a lot. I know they've replenished the talent. They do a great job with recruiting. Mario Cristobal is definitely a good coach outside of the fact that he didn't seem to know the rules that you could take a knee, which I'm never going to let go of and almost actively root against him for that. But despite that, Miami will not finish as a top 10 team. They never get it done. As Public Enemy said, don't believe the hype. too high. At number 11, we have Arizona State. Nelson.
I think Arizona State is fine where they're at. Listen, there's a reason why they got to the 12th playoff team bracket last year, and they were able to have a stunner upset. And at the end of the day, too, they were able to advance. I like what Kenny Dillingham has done with this program. I know not a lot of folks might think of Arizona State as a premier program in college football, but let's not deny what they did last year. And I like them going into this year, not necessarily to potentially get into the 12 team playoff. I don't know if they will, but I think they'll be very, very potent enough to at least win 8, 9, in my opinion.
Right, but that wouldn't be the 11th best team in the nation, to be fair. And I agree with you. Dillingham has done a tremendous job, and I will absolutely buy into what he's doing and the direction they could be going in. But I'm not buying into it for this season. Too high. Look, these are the Arizona State Sun Devils. They lost a lot. I'm not buying into that being the 11th best team in the nation or a playoff team. So too high. Number 12, we have the Fighting Illini of Illinois. Nelson.
I think there's an argument to be made that maybe they're ranked a little too maybe too high. I think the Fighting Illini had a good year last year, and maybe that's why they're kind of hyped up in the rankings per se. But it'll be interesting to see what they can do again this year. I mean, the Big Ten is always loaded. I don't know if they're better than being a mid-tier team in the Big Ten. So it'll be interesting to see with the Illini.
Look, I like Brett Bielema, and I like the job he's done and is doing. I think it's going well, but the reality is
Hmm.
this is Illinois. They've never had consecutive seasons in which they won double
Right.
digit games. I'm not going to count on that happening until I see it happen. And the reality is they'd have to be better this season, win more than 10 games than what they were last year in order to make the playoff, which this states they will. So I'm not buying into it, so
Yeah.
too high. Number
Yeah.
13, the South Carolina Gamecocks. Nelson, what do you have?
I think South Carolina, with Shane Beamer and what he did last year, and I forget how long he's been out with that program. I know he's just started out recently, but I forget how long.
It's been some
But
years now.
I say again.
I think it's been some years now.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years now.
A little more
It's
than
been
that. I think it's been
uh,
5 or 6,
and
7
and
years,
for
something like that.
and for anybody to know, he's Frank Beamer's son. Ironically, I don't know why, but hey, I don't know why he didn't go to Tech. But hey, Tech has sucked in ACC now for how long?
Well,
Sorry,
he
Hokie
played there in
fans,
the
but
opener.
I think they'll beat the Hokies. So either way, listen, Shane Beamer, what he did last year with with South Carolina. Listen, this program has always been that like that little brother versus the bigger brother teams. You know, being Alabama, LSU, they've always put up a good fight, and they've always also got the butts kicked. But last year, we saw a lot of progress with that offense and a lot of potential. I mean, me and you were talking about it, especially versus Alabama. You mentioned in the previous off the record conversation with LSU. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this year again, if they can continue the same success. And I like where they're headed. So I think where they're at is just fine.
But the thing is that they lost those games. They should have beaten LSU. They could
They
have beaten
should.
Alabama.
They
They
should.
won some close games, including against Clemson. So I just don't know that that translates. You can make a case that team was borderline from being just a good team or being an outstanding team, but they kind of fell right in the middle. So I don't see them being better this season. Look, I'm in agreement with you on Shane Beamer. I'll buy into him for sure. I think he's done a good job, and they have the talent there. There's some great players, no question about it.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, this is South Carolina. More often than not, they're a mediocre program. That's what they've pretty much always been. You mentioned it. So I'm just not going
Yeah.
to buy into them being a borderline playoff team. I don't see it happening. So too high. And number 14, the Michigan Wolverines. Nelson.
Before I say over the Michigan Wolverines, I just want to touch it up real quick. I think when we're getting to the meat and potatoes now of the list, when we say mediocre, we're not necessarily saying that these guys are not the cream of the crop by any means. But I think going into this year, there's a lot of per se reason, unlike per se other years, that you can make an argument to say that the top 10 teams would be guaranteed to be fighting for the playoff. This year, it's definitely a lot more lopsided. So to even be in the middle, I think is still pretty good recognition. But with Michigan, listen, they're ranked as high as they are because of the program and their background. I don't know if they're going to be any worse than they were last year, but I don't know that they're going to get any better. I think they're kind of they're stuck where they are. Especially after losing Harbaugh and the job that he did in Michigan. I just don't see it how they can possibly improve. That's just my take.
I agree. Too high. I am not a Sharon Moore fan. I don't think it's going to work out. I don't think he is going to last. And so I think that they're way too high in this ranking. And I'm in agreement with you. It's a brand ranking. Number 15, the
Hmm
Florida Gators. Nelson, what do you have?
I think they're ranked a little too high for my liking. Listen, I get it. You have an unknown at quarterback. He's got the potential to maybe flash, but listen, I've yet to see that consistency out of that. And with the brutal SEC schedule that they got coming, I'm scratching my head how they're ranked this high. I don't see it. I don't know about you. I just don't see it.
I actually think that Florida could be the 15th best team in the nation, but as you stated, that schedule is brutal.
Mm,
There's no
mm.
chance they are winning enough games to finish ranked 15 in the final poll. Thus, being ranked 15th in the preseason bowl is too high. So that's where I have them, too high. Number 16, SMU, the Mustangs of Southern Methodists out there in Dallas. What do you have, Nelson?
I think they're a good program. They've always been a program that can sustain games, especially against their mid-level tier opponents. It'll be interesting to see again what kind of damage they can do in the ACC. Now, granted, if we're comparing them to be anywhere they were last year, I don't know that is. I don't think I don't want to say that's obtainable. I think that more might be more of a reach. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think for the past 40 years, realistically, all we have talked about with SMU is the death penalty. And so I think at this point
Hmm
in time, what they did last season was really exciting to come into the ACC and have a perfect season up until the ACC
hmm
championship and come up just short in that game, nearly win it, and go to the playoff. But the reality is that SMU, for the next 6 seasons, including this year and last year, is getting no television revenue from the ACC. And I know what they accomplished last year, and that was incredible. But I just don't think they
Yeah.
can sustain that under the circumstances and be competitive at that level. I think Rod
hmm
Ashley is a good coach. I think they're going to have an outstanding offense. I think they'll average well over 40 points a game. I think Jennings is a tremendous quarterback, and there's plenty of talent there. But I just
Yeah.
don't see them being the 16th best team in the nation, so too high. Number
Okay.
17, we have the Kansas State Wildcats. Nelson, give it to us.
Kansas State. Oh my God, everybody loved Kansas State last year. I'm going to give you reasons why I really think they're ranked too high for their own liking. So first of all, Kansas State, you guys have had several changes on the offensive line, which is not a good thing. I mean, listen, we talk about this on the NFL previews all the time. If you don't have consistent, coordinators, you don't have a consistent, offense and defensive line, you're going to end up faltering or regress. They lost three of their interior offensive line starters. That's a bad sign. And on top of that, your defense was way too aggressive last year. Yes, you had success with that aggressiveness, but can they keep up the same thing going into this year? I don't think so. And for that reason, way too high. Way too high.
If anyone ever wants to question Nelson Jordan's sports knowledge, he just broke down for you a team that plays in the Midwest and the Big 12. He doesn't live in the Midwest. He doesn't follow the Big 12 closely. He's not a fan of a team in the Big 12. That tells you all you need to know about Nelson Jordan and his expertise in this sport. Man should be a paid analyst. I'm just throwing it out there. That was tremendous. I'm actually going to go with just right for Kansas State. I don't think they're too high. I could see them
Okay.
being too high. I think you're on to
Okay.
something, and oftentimes they are. So I'm with you on that. But for right now, I'm going to go just right on Kansas State, and
All
you'll
right.
probably let me know when I'm wrong. I'm sure that will be the case on this one. Number 18, the Oklahoma Sooners. Nelson.
I think Oklahoma. I think they're right where they need to be. I love Oklahoma this year. I think that there could be a possibility where Oklahoma, if you let them into the playoff bracket per chance, I think they're going to be a dark horse. Listen, I love the fact that they have a combination of matter and the fact that they were able to bring the OC also from Washington as well. So with that, I don't listen. I'm not saying that they're going to have a high profile offense like Washington had last year, but will I think that they will make the offense better? Absolutely. And with combination too, with that defense that is very good on the back end, and with the transfer portal additions also on that defensive line, I think Oklahoma can be a pest, and I think they're going to surprise some folks this year. So I think they're going to be climbing the ladder. But for where they are right now, where they need to be, I think they're just right.
I am actually going too high on the Oklahoma Sooners. Look, this team had a losing record last season. I have never bought into Brent Venables. I am still not buying into Brent Venables, and so I think that they are too high. Number 19, Texas A&M. Nelson, what do you have?
Texas A&M, I think they are ranked a little too high in my opinion. Listen, you're playing in the SEC, and we saw what you guys did last year too. Also losing to Notre Dame. I mean, and the way you lost to Notre Dame, that was not good at all. And going into this year too, also with a at this point a second string, sophomore quarterback who, listen, he's good with his mobile with his legs, but when it comes to throwing the ball. He's been what at his best 62%. That's what I've seen, at least from completion percentage. Listen, when it comes to ACC ball, you got to be able to throw the ball and you got to be able to run and you got to be able to score points. I just don't know if they're even worthy of almost being in the top 25, let alone where they're at. Might be a saving grace just because of the program, but I think they're ranked too high.
I agree, too high. I think a lot of this ranking has to do with the brand. I mean, they are in the state of Texas, and we know what football is in the state of Texas, and so I think
Yeah,
that is giving them more hype than they probably deserve. They certainly had a good
yeah,
season last year, but I think this is too high. I don't think they're a top 20 team. And I agree with you. I don't even know if they're a ranked team in the final poll. I don't know if they'll finish in the final top 25. Number
yeah.
20, the Indiana Hoosiers. Nelson.
There's a case to be made. I'm going to be one of those guys to make that case. I think Indiana. I think they're a good middle of the team in the Big Ten. Excuse me. Listen, they did some good last year. I understand, and I know that you had stated this off the record. They had an easy schedule, so maybe you're going to drill me more about it. Please go all in on me. But I think they have some stability now, especially with their experienced coaching and with their players. Because granted, their defense was pretty good last year, right? I get it. When it came to facing the bigger dogs, they were not a premier team by any means, but I think they can still maintain their status where they are. But if anything, I would like to have seen them just be a little tad higher, just because of what they did last year.
Too high. I don't see Indiana being a top 20 team this year. I think what happened last season was awesome for them, but realistically, we're talking about the Indiana Hoosiers in football. This isn't basketball, and even in that, it hasn't been so great lately, but
Yeah,
that's a conversation for another day. But look, I think Kirk Cignetti is clearly a tremendous coach, and I like where Indiana's at, but I don't see them putting together another season like that. And you mentioned it, the schedule was easy last year. It's a lot harder this season. I just don't see them being a top 20 team. It's not happening. At number 21, Ole Miss. What do you have on the Rebels?
Ole Miss. My goodness. Do I love this team? I got a lot of hype for them. Maybe you might necessarily not, but I do. Listen, the combination of Lane Kiffin, we know what he did from his predominance in college football from USC days all the way to now. Listen, I get it. You guys lost Jackson Dart to the draft, but keep an eye on this guy's name. I'm telling you, he's an emerging star in the SEC. Austin Simmons. He is right now being compared to Tua Tagovailoa also. And on top of that, what's great about him is not only is he good with throwing the ball, but he's excellent with his playmaking skills, being able to be a little more of a scrambler than people might necessarily think he is. And secondly, we also got to remember how great that Ole Miss defense really was. There was some games where I'm like, holy smokes! I don't remember if it was against Auburn, but I think it was against Auburn. They destroyed Auburn last year at Ole Miss. Do you know the game I'm talking about? I think it was like, what was it, 42 to like 17 or something like
It's
that?
not
I mean,
bad.
that defense is nasty. That defense is nasty with Ole Miss. So I think they're ranked way too low. Way too low.
I agree. I think they're too low. I mean, I'm buying into Lane Kiffin, and we know he has a tremendous up-tempo offense. Always, it's a lot of fun to watch. But as you stated, that defense last season was outstanding. If they can come even close to that and be
Mm,
more along the lines of his typical
mm-hmm.
up-tempo, high-scoring
Yep.
offense, yeah, I think they're too low. I think this team will overachieve compared to what the expectations are for them. Number
Mm-hmm.
22, Iowa State. What do you think about the Cyclones?
Iowa State, listen, I think they're in there because of their brand and the program that they are. I get it. You're in the Big 12, and listen, they're always competitive and in the Big 12, and they always seem to kind of be playing for the Big 12, or at least be in the conversation for it. Do I think they're going to be any higher than that during the regular season? No, but I think they're fine where they're at.
I actually think they're too high. I mean, this is Iowa State realistically. I like Matt Campbell as well. I think they have a great fan base. I do think that this is a good team, but it's Iowa State. I think they're too high. I
Yeah.
don't think they'll end up being that good. 23, we have Texas Tech. Nelson.
Texas Tech, again, this is another team from the Big 12 that's just getting literally their recognition via what that program used to be at one point and what that program could be. I mean, granted, listen, Texas Tech is all about that fun offense and what they are, but I mean, there's an argument to be made, and you're going to say too here in a second. Listen, they're not going to be any better than what their ranking is. So, I mean, is it fair to put them where they are? Sure, but I don't see them any better.
So I agree, too high. And I mean, realistically, when was the last time Texas Tech finished ranked in the final AP poll? It has been forever. And so you can't rank them in the preseason poll until they actually prove they deserve to be there by finishing ranked in the final poll. Thus, too high. I do think they're a good team, but too high. 24, we have the Tennessee Volunteers. What do you have, Nelson?
The Tennessee Volunteers, I think the Tennessee Volunteers, I think they're ranked maybe a tad too high for my liking. Listen, I like the program, but when you lose your quarterback who now goes to UCLA, and now there's serious questions to say, well, can that quarterback sustain the same success that the previous one did? And apologies, I don't remember his name. You can elaborate that, but
Nico
I,
Iamaleava.
yeah, I would never have thought to pronounce
A
that
lot
last
of
name.
practice. A lot of
Yeah,
practice.
that's a lot of practice. But with
He's
Nico,
been in
yes,
the headlines
absolutely.
so much. I just learned
But
it.
with Nico, listen, I honestly don't see it how potentially they can replicate the same success they had with Nico. And if they can't, I don't even know if they can stick around a little bit better than a game or two above 500. I don't know about your point of view, but I think they're ranked just a little too high for my liking.
I actually, I actually am going the other way. I think they're too low. I think they have the coaching. I think the quarterback they brought in will be good. Maybe not great. Maybe not even as good as what they would have had. But
Okay.
I don't think there's any chance they have a losing record. I don't even think there's any chance they're hovering around
Okay.
500. I think this is a
Okay.
very good, if not great team. I'm going too low.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. 25, we have the Boise State Broncos to wrap up. Nelson, what do you think?
Boise State, Boise State, Smurf Field, Smurf Stadium.
Yeah.
Blue, right? That song,
The Smurf
right? From the
Turf.
90s.
Yeah. Great
You guys
song.
know what I'm talking about. The
Yeah.
blue, yeah, the blue window,
BB
blue
Rexa
Corvette.
sampled it for another good song a few years ago. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Listen, Boise State, listen, I honestly think this was just a listen, people are just throwing darts at the wall. It's like, what can we just fit it in with an honorable mention? And this literally felt like it was Boise State just because of the success they had last year.
Right.
And obviously with Ashton Genty, I get it. Listen, Boise State, they're a fun team. They seem to always also, develop good players too, because some of their players always seem
Good
to go to the
program.
NFL. They're a good
Yeah, good
program.
program.
Listen, for
They
a
are.
mid-level
Especially for
program,
group of five. Yeah, group of
yeah,
five, good program.
exactly. They're a good
Yeah.
program. And so, let's see what they can be this year. Can they sustain the same success? I don't know, but I think this is an honorable mention at best to them being 25th. That's just my take on it. I don't know about what you think.
Too high. I don't think they will finish as a top 25 team. I don't think they're the best group of five team this year. I don't think they're anywhere near as good as
Yeah,
they were last season. I think you said it. It's the success they had last year in the program
yeah,
that they got this essentially an honorable mention vote in there, but I don't think they'll live up to it, and thus I think
yeah.
they're too high. But that's it for the AP poll that was released. So please feel free if we had your team too low or just right when you felt they should have been higher and they weren't the Texas Longhorns. Come at us in the comments. Let Nelson and I know how wrong we were and why we were wrong. And follow us on all of our social media pages. Subscribe to our YouTube page and listen to us wherever
Oh
you
yeah.
get your podcasts. It's college football season coming up now, guys. Nelson and I will be there throughout with to provide our takeaways on all the games, biggest stories, and news. But that's all we have for this one. So until the next episode, for Nelson Jordan, I'm Chris Nelson. This has been the first and final word.